This is the Horse Radio Network.
Guys, we've almost made it. 2021 is nearly over, and we're hopeful that 2022 is going to be the best one yet. This week, we're celebrating the holidays with some of our happy hour fans, and of course, there's always time to talk about gastric ulcers. Thanks for tuning in. From Heels Down Mag, a podcast where horse pros chat about what's happening in the horse world over drinks. Welcome to Happy Hour. I'm Justine Griffin.
I'm Jessica Payne.
And I'm Ellie Woznicka. Welcome to episode 93 of Heels Down Happy Hour.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. Ellie, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, not long ago, you asked about Bell Boop help in the Facebook group. And have you found a suitable replacement Bell Boop brand that you like? Because I'm very curious.
So I haven't gotten them in the mail yet.
Okay.
What'd you order?
So here's the thing, is I love Berkeley very much, but I hate him at the same time because it doesn't matter what I use, and like they all will fit. Like it's just a matter of like the longevity of them. Like I mean, like he breaks the escadrons, and I'm like, I'm not gonna spend $30 every like couple of months on a pair of boat boots. And my biggest thing is I like to take them on and off. So I looked into, there's one pair that I did not buy because they're $80. They're Wolfwear, and they're like made of Kevlar. And I'm
$80 Bell boots? Wow.
Do not $80. I was like, yeah, I'm not willing to do that. And so I bought these Duratec ones, but they've got that newer shape that's more of like a teepee shape than like the traditional.
Yeah, I like the teepee looking shape.
Okay, so that's what I went with. You know, I mean, they've got some extra padding, so hopefully they won't, hold moisture, because I've never done ones that aren't, rubber before. But I'm interested to see how they hold up. But that's what I got for the time being, because I was like, this is the most similar shape I can find to the $80 ones, but, for $30.
Well, you'll have to let me know, because that seems similar to what we are buying, but they're not terrible. And we use them more when they're like jumping and stuff, but I'm always into like getting a new brand or something else or finding something. So definitely let us know, because I would really, really like to know what you think about them.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. We'll see if he manages to destroy these too.
Perfect.
This episode is brought to you by Green Flower Botanicals. Learn more by going to greenflowerbotanicals.com.
So you guys, I've been in like the festive mood with ordering drinks and like going outside the box and stuff. And the other night, I'm not sure if I can make this at home. I'm going to have to try. But the other night I ordered an espresso martini, and it was so good. I was kind of tired, and I'm not really the kind of Red Bull type person that can just like, Doug, if he's tired, he'll have like a Red Bull and vodka or like something in Coke or whatever. And I can't do that. So I was like, this is a good alternative for me, that I was feeling a little tired and we were going to dinner with a bunch of people. So I got an espresso martini, and they said to make it at home, you do 2 ounces of vodka, half an ounce of coffee liqueur, 1 ounce of espresso. They do it freshly brewed, 1 ounce of simple syrup, and you garnish with coffee beans. And for me, I feel like that's actually an easy kind of thing, because those are things that I could keep in my house over a period of time. And then all they say to do is just add the vodka, coffee liqueur, espresso, simple syrup into a shaker, fill it with ice and shake till well chilled, and put it in a cocktail glass. So I don't know. I feel like I might be able to try this and feel fancy at my house. So I don't know. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I think one, it's impressive and fancy. And my mom loves these around the holidays. She always makes some like Christmas, New Year's, that type of thing. It feels like a lot of work to me, but probably worth it if you're in the mood for this type of drink, right?
Because it's very similar. Years ago, we do for dessert is the tequila XO, the Patron, which is like the coffee tequila. And I'm not a tequila person. It's like the only tequila I can drink. So I feel like this is like the vodka version of it. And I can be like fancy in like a martini glass though. So I might have to try this over the holidays.
I'm just confused about the goal. Like, is the goal of this drink to give you energy, or to like, is this like an afternoon drink where you're like,
I feel like this is like at dinner time, like as your first drink if you're tired and Like me, go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night every night. And I'm like, oh, these people want to do dinner at 7:30. And that's like super late for dinner for us. Don't judge. 7:30 is very late for dinner for us.
My mom drinks something like, you know how, sorry, Mom, but old people, like, they like coffee after dinner. Like, she does it, but like keeps the liquor going, basically, by doing her coffee plus alcohol, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like the Bailey. It's like the Irish coffee with Baileys and stuff. But this is like in a fancy martini glass.
Yeah. Exactly. So for me, I mean, I lived off Irish coffee. Like when I studied abroad in Ireland, I literally had a bottle of Baileys in my backpack at all times.
I feel like this would be right up your alley then.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not like coffee fan. Like I remember in college what we used to do, like if we like knew we were gonna like party all night and we were already tired, we did that V2 vodka stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No way. I would be so sick.
It's got caffeine like in it, so it's like a keep you going kind of.
No, this is like, I feel like just like my fancy version to keep me going because I only need to go for an hour before dinner's over.
Ellie, you've got like the teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Mine's only got to get me to 9 o'clock instead of 8.
Oh no,
I 30-something-year-old body can't do that anymore.
Oh,
you know, where I'm looking at the espresso martini, going, yeah, one of these is perfect, just one.
Yes,
you know?
That's all I need.
I feel like I could have one with like hot chocolate. You know, like I feel like I can't drink coffee after like 3 o'clock because I'm like wired.
I could drink coffee any time of the night. I can have like
nap. Yeah, same. Me too.
Oh no, I can have it like at dinner when we have to go to dinner late. I do it without the martini. I do a lot of times. I'll do a latte or a coffee like as everybody's having their dessert drinks or whatever. I'm like, oh, can I just get a coffee? And I will have it and drive home and then go straight to bed.
Yeah,
no
same.
problem.
Yeah, I have no problem either.
You guys are old.
We are.
Yeah, call us in like 6-7 years, Ellie.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I said that the other day. I was like, oh yeah, you know, remember in high school? I was like, oh my God, we're both closer to 30 than we are to high school.
Oh my goodness. No. Oh my goodness. I can't.
That's so funny. Like, you think that's bad? I pulled like an old cooler I went out of a horse show. Like
from 20 years ago.
Yeah, like literally in January, this cooler is going to be 20 years old. And I was like, wow, I'm getting old.
So I have sort of a USEF update for you guys. They've decided one of the things, at least for 2022. So we talked about the 2023 schedule, how everything's going to kind of change. Well, with that schedule changing and Jersey Fresh not being on the spring FEI list, I feel really bad for them because they weren't on the list. So they decided, since they weren't on the list, they were actually going to not run the 2022 FEI event. And that left all the competitors not sure if there was going to be a spring 3 and 4 star. And that's quite big to not have that here in the, not to have that option for the May spring 3 and 4L for the eventing. So long story short, as it was horrible that, I understand completely where Jersey's coming from, that they don't want to put on another year when they weren't allowed to do it. So I get that. But at the same time, I'm super thankful that Tryon decided to pick it up. And so they put in a bid and said they would run, I think they're doing a 1-star through 4-star long. I'm not sure they're doing a 2L, but they've got lots of different options for that middle of May date. So now North America still does have a 4 long in their spring schedule. So very thankful that Tryon decided to step up and do that on their amazing course. Ellie, what do you have?
Yeah, so I actually have something that, I'm sure everybody's kind of seen in the social media world as of recently. So it's not just equine vets. I'm sure you guys have seen the Not One More Vet thing going around on Facebook. And it's just kind of this argument that, we expect so much from these veterinarians that they're having this horrible work-life balance. And they're actually one of the highest suicide rates in all of the professions, and at least in our country. But I read something recently about equine vets and how they're worried that people are not going to refill the positions once people start retiring because there is no work-life balance. They say, oh, it's more of a lifestyle, but I guess that, that's getting harder and harder to justify, especially to vet students, because they want some kind of life outside of the, equine practice, and with their families and stuff like that. And so it's basically just a reminder to be kind to your vets and don't text them unless it's an emergency late at night, which I am guilty of, unfortunately.
I think we all are. It's one of those jobs that I think is, I don't want to say thankless, but I don't think people, they're the one person you can call, right? When you think of like, oh my gosh, is this an emergency? And I don't think we always think about the toll that takes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a reminder to be kind to your vets. And yeah. So what do you have, Justine?
Well, it's December, which means it's time for all the new rules to take effect. So whether, if you're competing in any, yeah, exactly. More drama, right? So if you're competing in any USCF sanctioned discipline, there are new rules. So the Chronicle of the Horse does a great job every year of like coming up with like, this is what you need to know for every discipline. I think the biggest news, at least for me, that I'm excited about and probably got the most bang for its buck, I guess, when this was announced was for dressage, that riders can now wear colored breeches and any single colored tailcoat or jacket starting in the 2022 season. So Jess, I don't know about you, but I don't know. I hope people just go buck wild with this because I feel like
think it's going to be fun.
I know. I feel like dressage needs this. There are so many dressage divas who have been waiting for this. Like, go out there and like wear a wildly colored jacket if you want to, or the fact that you can wear colored breeches. I mean, I think most people will be fairly reserved, but
you're going to have a couple not, but that will be so fun.
But this is exciting. So
I have a question that you might not know the answer to, Justine. Does this include the hunter jumper world? Because like in the jumpers and stuff, right, especially if you're going to higher shows, like if you don't have tan breeches or breeches that are like so light gray that they're considered tan, right, you can't compete.
Right. This has nothing to do with hunters or jumpers or anything outside of specifically like USDF, FEI, or all USCF level dressage. So that like the rule only affects the dressage.
For dressage people, yeah.
Yep. So there are some new rules for the hunters too, but they're all like fairly like nothing that like stuff, like is going to affect a lot of people. I will say the low children's and low adult amateur hunter classes have their own rated sections now, which is exciting for some of us amateur riders. The Stirrup Cup program is being discontinued in the hunters. The only other thing that really was like a big news story out of the rule changes are for the jumpers. Mules can now compete in jumper classes, which is sort of
oh wow,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I know. I'm excited about this because I've wanted a mule for the longest time.
Right, I know. I think it's kind of interesting. I feel like I've seen some mule like news stories over the years, but they're always eventing. So maybe we'll see more in jumpers now. There are some other jumper related rules that are interesting. The amateur owner jumper divisions have been eliminated. So there will only be amateur jumper divisions, no amateur owner ones, which
because that was pretty normal because a lot of the amateur they weren't actually owners of the horse.
Right.
They weren't. So then there was the amateur jumpers. So it kind of was like
a little redundant. Yeah. Exactly. Just sort of eliminating like, why do we need multiple divisions there?
100%.
I'm trying to see if anything else like really pops out at me. So I think those are the big ones.
Those were the big ones. Yeah.
So we'll link to all these in the show notes if you guys want to read the new rules. We've been sharing new rule announcements in the Spark, obviously, too, in recent weeks. But yeah, it's December 1st. It means I have to learn all new dressage tests now for eventing.
You can do it. I believe in you.
So shout out to everyone who supports us on Patreon. We really appreciate everybody who takes the time out of their day to give a little back to this podcast. We're getting closer to 100 episodes. If you can, gosh, it's crazy to think about that, Jess, that we've been doing this podcast almost 100 times.
I know.
And we just appreciate all of you who enjoy listening to this podcast and join us in our Facebook group. And every little bit helps, keeps the show on the air and keeps us going forward. So if you want to join us and become a Patreon subscriber, you can do that by going to Patreon, which is patreon.com/heelsdown. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about some new riding gear I just got, which I honestly think would be a great holiday gift for both of you. I think you'll like these too. So obviously, you both know I'm a fan of Redingote. I have their rain gear suit, which I actually just used at a super rainy Rocking Horse trials event in November, where it just rained constantly and it was like 30 degrees all day. And of course, I'm the only person in Florida wearing a rain suit, but I was really glad I had it. And I also have their winter riding suit, which I don't use as often, but I do use it when I go skiing, and I got to wear it when I went to Iceland and rode some Icelandic horses and was very grateful to have it. But Redingote has expanded the line of products they offer, where they're now selling breeches and some shirts. So I got to try out their new jogger knee patch breeches, which I was super excited about. I couldn't wait to get these. And they came in the mail just this last week. And they are a pair of breeches, but they combine the best thing about breeches with the best thing about sweatpants, which probably sounds really weird to hear, but I promise you it's all of the best things of both worlds. So their jogger breeches are basically, they're just a riding pant where they have real knee patches on them, but they're made of almost like sweatpant material. So it's like a thicker, for me living in Florida, I would say it's more of like a winter riding pant for me. But they have a drawstring, and like a waistband, a stretchy waistband that makes it feel like sweatpants to me. And I feel like if you were ever going to try to debut a product like this, 2021 is the year to do it, But they do have compression to them, which I really like too. So they have the compression of like a workout legging. If you like Lululemon leggings, I really like, you feel that comfort in the riding tight. But you don't have to worry about a belt because they just have the, like I said, like the waistband that feels like a sweatpant. And I still tuck in a shirt when I ride with in these, but they're nice and comfortable. So I just got them. I rode in them over the weekend, and I loved them. They were great. They weren't too hot. They were very comfortable. And then I took them off and went home and put sandals on and went to Publix, the grocery store. I cleaned my house. I wore them all day. Like they're like the perfect, like, work to riding pant. Like I can wear them all day. They're super comfortable. They're very stretchy. They're moisture wicking. Again, they have the waistband with the drawstring. They're easy to wash. I just washed them. They look great. They look the same brand new right out of the wash. And then I wore them with a Redingote specific shirt that they just launched too. So they have a long sleeve color block shirt, which the colors are so pretty. It's like a green, a maroon, and a navy blue. And it's just very tasteful. Like, it doesn't have a collar, so it's a great schooling long sleeve shirt. But I've gotten tons of compliments on the shirt. Like, everyone just loves the color scheme of them. They're really, really pretty. So if you already have the Redingote winter suits, you'll know the colors. They like match their winter jumpsuit colors. So it's all the same sort of tone and feel. But it is a technical fabric. It's very soft. It's got 4-way stretch. It's moisture wicking. It's quick drying. It has a nice crew neck. It's very comfortable to wear. Honestly, it pairs really great with their jogger breeches. So if you haven't seen them yet, the jogger breeches come in 2 different colors. I got the brown, which I love. And then again, it pairs great with that long sleeve shirt. It's a great gift if you're looking for like a maybe some.
Right. It sounds awesome. I'm going to have to look into this because I've not heard about this at all. So
yeah,
it sounds like it's super nice. Like, we all do love our leggings. So it's like a mixture between the two, which would be nice.
I know. So I never thought I would be like a more casual riding tights type person. But, I've always been like a breeches with a belt, very traditional. But I don't know, like companies are getting very creative in like different designs. And these joggers they're awesome. Like,
well, I'm interested because with the drawstring, it makes it look like a belt. So it makes it that kind of in between without being leggings, if that makes sense.
100%. And they're so comfortable. Like I said, like on days that I know I have to like get up and work a long day and then I'm going to try to run out and squeeze a ride in. Like I will start my day in the joggers and then run to the barn. So like they're that comfortable that I can wear it
nice.
and, do everything I need to do at home, even do like a yoga session and then run to the barn. I can wear them all day. They're great.
Oh, that's awesome.
I won't be judged anymore for wearing sweatpants and tall boots.
I know. Well, and Ellie, I thought of you actually when I rode in them because I feel like, yes, there's the compression element to them, but I feel like they're nice and comfy enough where you could put a tight underneath them if you wanted to ride in like a double layer.
For it to be cold. Yeah.
Yep. You could very easily do that. And then the material is thick enough like you wouldn't show anything if you had a layer underneath.
Nice.
I'm all.
And where you were just saying, where do they go on and find this? Because I need to look this up for sure.
So if you want to check it out, you can go to redingotequestrian.com. Redingote is spelled Redingote, equestrian.com. And you want to look at the equestrian color block long sleeve shirt and then also the jogger knee patch breeches.
Whether it's been hours of barn chores or a long week at a show, Candles for Burned Out Equestrians have a comfort for everyone. These hand-poured candles are all natural, renewable, and soy-based, so you can feel good about lighting one in your home. Be careful, though. You deserve to relax, unwind, and breathe in the sweet smell of not horses for once. You can check them out at shop.heelsdownmag.com.
All right, guys, I'm really excited to introduce our guest tonight. Courtney Tuxhorn is an amateur eventer originally from Maryland who events at the prelim level with her off-track thoroughbred BAM. You may know them on Instagram as 2X Racers. Hey, Courtney.
Hello.
How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for having me. I've been listening to the podcast for a long time, so it's great to be here.
Oh, we're happy that you're here. So I have followed you on Instagram for a while, and I've just loved watching your journey with BAM, who is amazing. And what I think your story is very unique and very cool because eventing's not your first competitive sport. So you were an athlete in that you did triathlons, right?
That's right. I did. I raced triathlons and bikes. I actually started out running as kind of a circuitous path, but yeah, I spent about a dozen years being my own kind of endurance athlete. And I stopped racing in 2013. It's kind of I stopped racing in 2013 because I had some injuries, but
okay.
Yeah.
You seem like you were very competitive in that too. So that was my question. Obviously, you're a competitive person, I would say. So was it the injuries that led you to kind of shift gears and try something new?
Yeah. Well, A, thank you. And B, yeah. I mean, I think I would say I felt like I stopped racing when I was still on an upward trajectory in terms of my ability. But yeah, it just like I had a lot of hip problems and just kind of pulverized the head of my femur, basically.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so, and I still, endurance athletes are funny. Like I got a couple of surgeries and then found myself running a couple of marathons and then was like, wow, no, it's really not a good idea. And I still I'll still periodically go back to running. Like I had a stint of running last winter too, because I love it. But yeah, it's mostly because of the injuries. But I'll be honest, like when I was racing, I still, I would plan my routes to go past where I knew there were horses. Sometimes if I was having a tough race and we're going past horses, I'm like, what am I doing on this bike? What am I doing right now? So I always did want to come back to the horses. And that's eventually what I did.
So you went from human triathlons to horse and human triathlons.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it served me well, actually, in pursuing my eventing, because I learned a lot about, training for three sports, making mistakes in training, when to rest, when to push, physiology, like that kind of thing. So I want to say it's been helpful in my eventing as well.
So speaking about training, you got an off-the-track thoroughbred as your first horse and brought him up through the levels. Tell us more about BAM and your goals for next year.
Okay, I can talk about Bam a lot. He's amazing. I love him. Yeah, I got him off the track. It was really lucky. I saw him on the Canter website. I think a lot of folks who like off-track thoroughbreds know about Canter. It's like one of the rehoming websites. So I saw him back in 2017, and just thought he was gorgeous. And his trainer was somebody that I knew from growing up in Maryland. So I was kind of in the right place at the right time to get the horse. I reached out to Hugh and he's like, oh yeah, you can have him. So that was really lucky. But yeah, we've had a lot of fun. And I think next year, we had a great year at prelim this year, capped off with FEI, our first FEI event at Tryon, the Tryon International a couple of weeks ago, which was a great learning experience. I want to say one of my favorite things was when I went down, and Jess, maybe you'll laugh at this, I gleefully went down my first center line at the posting trot and got the bell.
Oops.
Yeah, oops. I didn't know that. Yeah, didn't know it's only sitting trot. But yeah, one of the judges very kindly rang the bell and let me know that the whole test was supposed to be the sitting trot. So anyway,
we got a sitting trot change and when you can't use a whip in the ring. Those are the two that get me all the time. So yeah, you're with everybody else. Don't worry.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Hearing you say, I'm like, wait, you can't post?
No.
Yeah, I just learned that too. But yeah, anyway, I'm hoping to sort of continue on the trajectory next year. I think my plan, like Aest of A's, would be to shoot for a 3-star long at the end of next year. But, with athletes and with horses and with eventing, you can often go to plan B or C or what have you. So, but yeah, that's my sort of plan A for next year.
Okay, so Courtney, the first time we talked about anhydrosis, like this thing that haunts me everywhere I go because I keep buying horses that don't sweat, and I'm glad BAM sweats. So I've been following you, before then, since then, obviously, online, and I think this is a question I've wanted to ask you since I've started following you on Instagram. Is you had the best pandemic life, obviously the pandemic is a horrible thing that have affected a lot of people, it abruptly stopped all of our lives in some way. But you, as an eventer, were able to come to Florida for the season and then stay here, right? And you trained with the Hollings. Can you tell me a little bit about how you just made that work? Like, what was your plan? Did it get disrupted by COVID? How did you and BAM kind of work around everything? Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I think it's kind of a combination of, circumstances. I was up in Canada because my husband's a professor at the University of Calgary. We're both Americans, and I work for an American organization, and had been sort of floating back and forth across the border, renewing my tourist visa and so on. But then COVID kind of changed that. But actually, I want to back up for a second, because even before that, I don't know if you all have been to Calgary. It's quite cold in the wintertime. But I had actually submitted a mailbag to you guys. I want to say it was like January or February of 2020. I was having some issues with the barn where I was. I think like another boarder's horse was like chewing up my horse's blankets, and I had a question about like what to do, and I was just super stressed about it. And you all had a super helpful answer.
Wow.
And it got me to start thinking about, I got to get my horse out of here. Like, I got to get out of here. And this was just just barely pre-COVID, but that's kind of when I started planning, like, I gotta do something else next year. Like, I can't be here for another winter with no options, and my horse stuck here with like another horse, like chewing him up, and it's freezing cold and stuff. So that kind of started me thinking about it. And then on top of that, I was in Canada where I don't have a work permit, not a resident. I have asthma. So like if I were to get COVID, I could get quite sick, but I don't have health coverage up there. So that was kind of accelerated it when like, all right, my particular circumstances are like, I need to get back into the US. So that helped me out. And then I think my particular circumstances, but then I think on top of that, just like planning, like I'm a big planner. And I think when you think something through and plan a bunch, and the internet's great these days because you can research anything and, come up with different plans and see what other people do. And, if you come up with like a really sort of like, just a plan, the people around you will kind of be like, okay, whether it's work or husband or that kind of thing, like, okay, well, that seems like, it seems like you've researched it. So yeah, I kind of did that. And then I will say the other thing that I did was I've taken my horse on trips before, like the second year we were eventing, I took him on a trip down to California for a month over the winter. I mean, it was like our fourth and fifth event to do training level, and somebody that I stayed with in a like a horse motel on the way had kind of been like, "That's a long way to go for training level." And I thought, okay, yes, it is, but we learned so much, had a great time, but I on that trip, which isn't quite as far as going from Calgary to Florida, I learned about hauling my horse long distances and stuff like that. So I feel like I kind of had some of the pieces in place in terms of putting together a trip like that. And then, it just kind of came together in terms of, asking people, kind of networking and trying to find a place to stay. Like, you don't have to be down in Florida with a whole string of horses. Like, you can kind of I found a friend of a friend with like a small farm and an RV on the property to rent. And, I stayed there last year. And I'm back on the same property this year, but in an apartment, which has better internet. So that's helpful. And then for my work, I've been remote for a while. So I'm really fortunate in that sense, but I think there are more and more people who are remote these days that can probably make a similar kind of thing work.
Speaking of making things work, where are you based now, and kind of how do you manage the whole horse commitments with like real adulting commitments?
I think I'm in Florida now. I would say I think I'll probably be based in, I would say I'm going to be based in Maryland. Like after Florida this past season, I thought I'd be able to go back up to Canada for the summer, but the border was still closed. So I went up to my mom's in Maryland, which was great. I think that's the most time. I'm 43 and I haven't spent that much time with my mom, I think since I was like 15, but it was lovely. And so I think I'll probably go back to my mom's in Maryland. And so that takes care of that sort of family component. And my husband's going to be on sabbatical this coming year. So I think that I don't feel like I'm that balanced in the sense that I haven't spent that much time with my husband in the past year. But he's been very understanding and supportive of it. And, some of it's been just kind of the situation that we're in. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to come down to Florida for Christmas, because I'll still be here. I'm going to be here through the spring season, but, the new Omicron variant might put that into question. I'm not sure. But then work, I think work is something that I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing and getting it done during my 8 to 5 kind of time. As you might guess from my history of doing triathlon, like I'm extremely good at being like very regimented and having a plan. And I think having a plan is sort of the key to any kind of athlete's success or regular person's success. But, I have years and years of Excel spreadsheets, or I guess Google Sheets on my computer, planning out, like macro level, micro level, keeping notes on stuff. And I think that that's kind of been really helpful to me to keep things, if not fully balanced, like mostly balanced.
That sounds about right. Mostly balanced is about it. So speaking of family, do you guys have any holiday traditions you do? Or since everything's been crazy, you're not sure about traditions anymore?
Mostly the latter, but I will say I do love a good Christmas carol, and like starting probably about now, and I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to regale you all with my round of Christmas carols, but but I do like singing Christmas carols to my family, and it drives them a little bit bonkers, but other than that, no, I think, that's my Christmas tradition, or my holiday. That's your Christmas.
Tradition. That's okay. No one would want to hear me singing either.
Yeah, right.
So don't worry. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for coming on, and good luck this season. And hopefully we will see you. We should be in Ocala a couple times. So hopefully we'll see you, or Justine will see you as well. So thank you again for coming on with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
If you guys haven't tried out the EcoGold pads, you have to. There's no slipping, no sliding, no problem at all. My favorite is the EcoGold Secure pads. They're engineered to keep your horse's back comfortable while keeping the saddle in place for a safe, competitive ride. They have impact protection through the seat and ultra-thin flaps to provide the rider with a better communication and more stable riding position. They're available in both English and Western styles. Shop the entire collection at ecogold.ca.
All right, everybody. Our next guest, I'm really excited to introduce because she is a very good personal friend of mine who I actually have met in person, but I met her through the podcast, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But Amanda Moore is an amateur hunter-jumper rider from New Bern, North Carolina. She's ridden horses all her life with trainers in Virginia, Indiana, Kentucky, and Florida before settling in North Carolina. She's married and works in marketing when she's not in the saddle. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Hi, I miss you very much.
Oh, I miss you too. It's been too long.
It has been too long. So for everybody listening, Amanda and I met through the podcast, actually. It's a really fun story. So I will quickly tell the story, and Amanda, you'll tell me if I leave anything out. But so Amanda reached out to me on Facebook. Was a member of our podcast group on Facebook and DM'd me because she and her husband were moving to Florida. They were leaving Kentucky and moving here, and they wanted to settle in the Tampa area where I live. And she was asking about places to live and also places to ride. And so I was giving her some suggestions, and we like had one common person that we kind of knew who was also a listener from the podcast. And so she moved here, and she moved to St. Pete, the city that I live in. And then she also started riding and leasing a horse at the barn where I keep Mikey. And so we became very fast friends, and we horse showed together, and she rode Mikey, and I love her, and I miss her very much because then she left and moved back to North Carolina. So did I leave anything out?
No, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. My husband, Caleb, he would pretty much say that I like stalked Justine and like forced myself into her life and like wanted to be her friend. That's the story he tells people.
Oh, I feel like I could be friends with him. That's amazing.
And we did force friendships on our husbands. They were forced to hang out.
I feel like Alex was not forced into that friendship.
I feel like they got along.
I think they get along very well, actually.
Yeah.
I think to the point where like Justine and I would kind of split off, and they would split off and like just have their own conversations. And then Caleb came back to me after knowing Justine for a while, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, she's just as psycho as you are. No wonder you guys are friends." So yeah, the four of us were we used to hang out all the time, and
we were buds. Yeah.
So speaking of being friends with Justine, these two love to embarrass me and have my mother on the podcast to embarrass me. So tell us a funny, embarrassing story about Justine.
Well, I'll have two different stories that I actually want to share. I'll give you obviously what you guys want to hear. And I kind of have an embarrassing story of Justine. I guess you guys could tell me if it's embarrassing. But she would frequently come to the barn, and she would kind of like, come in kind of like slumpy. And I would, hey, what's wrong? Well, Alex is mad at me because I backed down my driveway and I hit our front fence for the third time.
All right, that is a good one.
Yeah, I never actually seen her hit the fence.
How many times did you hit it?
Like at least 3 or 4 in just the year that I lived there.
I was gonna say, are we talking about pre, during, or post Amanda in Florida?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's probably like 20.
Alex, I can't wait till he puts like spikes on it.
Oh my God. So it's just a little white picket fence in my front yard, but it makes our driveway so narrow, and I drive a truck.
Is this like, and then do you just like put a sign that says, "Please hit me"? That's what I would paint on it.
It just looks terrible now. Because I was like, oh, maybe I should pay to get it fixed. But then I kept hitting it. So I'm like, no, we're not going to fix it.
So I did that to my bumpers of all my trucks. And now I have the biggest brush guard because Doug wouldn't replace another one of them.
It is the same thing. Because you got to remember, I live in like an urban city, but drive truck because I
was driving in DC, and I'm like, of course somebody like bumped me or whatever. He's like, I'm tired of fixing the bumper. We're getting like the biggest heavy duty bumper. If you hit something, like it's not going to be broken anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone through my fence a couple of times.
So I can't wait. You're going to have like a rebar fence next. Okay. So Amanda, what's the other story?
Okay, the other story is I'm pretty sure it was one of our first horse shows together when I started riding at Justine's barn. So it was me and her and a couple of other girls, and we went, as a barn to go horse show. And of course, I picked the place or the barn that kind of goes out into the Florida wilderness to have horse shows. Like, I don't know, this it's just
it's
a
in the middle
schooling
of nowhere.
show, but
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's out there, and it's kind of as a hike from our barn. And of course, being the very sophisticated and successful adult amateur that I am, I locked my keys inside of my car on a horse show day. I think it was the second day. I'm not sure. And Justine is just such a wonderful and caring person. I love her. She used her AAA to call to Kai and get my keys out of my car. But there's a twist to this story because Justine's mom happened to be there as well. And AAA had to send out like 3 or 4 people because they couldn't figure out how to get to the horse show venue. Like, that's how in the middle of nowhere we were. Like, the tow truck people and the key getter outer people could not figure out how to get to us. So Justine's mom gets on the phone and just starts like yelling at them, like, we've been waiting over an hour, yada, yada, yada. And then magically someone arrives in like 15 minutes and got the keys out of my car.
That was a good story. We've had a lot though. I think about like our rocking horse shenanigans where you've just been a great friend at all the horse shows, Amanda. We had a lot of fun when you were here. I was very sad when you moved.
I know. I've been sad since I moved. I miss you and Katie and everyone at the barn so much for just having fun. It's really fun just horse showing as like a group of people.
Well, so you moved back to New Bern, which is a place you lived before, and I know you really love your trainer and your barn that you're at now. And you're saving up to buy a horse, which is exciting. So, and I feel like this is a common struggle for all of us adults is budgeting, right? So talk us through like what you're doing right now. Like, how are you keeping your patience? Obviously, you're working hard, you're putting money away to manage your budget goals.
Yes, it's definitely nerve-wracking at times, but so I am in marketing. I just recently kind of moved into this role and got a promotion as well recently. So kudos to me. But having a little bit higher paying job, but certainly it doesn't hurt anything. I also on the side own a small photography business as well that Justine also has a very big hand in. That's a good story too. But so as well as putting money aside from my paychecks and really just, committing to a number and sticking to a number and making that the priority. It's definitely big helpful tip number 1. And then of course with my side hustle photography business, I do pictures of people at horse shows mostly. And I take all the money that I earn extra on the side and it just goes right into my separate account. I kind of mapped out a plan of where I want to be at a given time point. And I think just really kind of sticking to the goals and making them smaller. I also just kind of focus on more of a monthly goal. So like I want to get to a certain number, divide it by how many months I am till I get there and try to just commit to the monthly number every month, making it smaller. And you just kind of work your way up like a ladder until magically you're there.
That's actually really, really good advice, is to break it apart so it seems more tangible, that it's not one big number, that it's small little pieces. So that's pretty awesome. And then speaking of, like you mentioned your husband and stuff, do you guys do any, or with your family, any holiday family traditions or favorite holiday traditions?
My husband's family is definitely more holiday tradition type. They definitely go all out for Christmas. And I think since being with them for the past, 7, 8 Christmases, I think the putting up of the lights is like my favorite part. So I love the part where you have all your colored lights or your white lights, icicles, different shapes and sizes. And it's really fun just to kind of put it all together and organize it in a way and where it turns out beautiful.
Well, thank you for joining us, Amanda. It was so fun and so glad you could share some stories about Justine, because we've always had people share stories. So we're glad that you could come on and do that with us. So Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun to finally be on the podcast.
But we have one more surprise for you. So we just wanted to thank you before you actually got going. But we would love for you to join us for Rose and Thorn if that's something you'd like to do.
Yay! I would love to do that, but I don't want to go first.
You
Okay.
you don't have to go first.
I'm not ready.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
All right, Jess, what do you got?
So my rose would be that we have gotten to spend more family time and everything. It's been downtime. As kind of guess my thorn would be that we're not horse showing and missing it. But at the same time, I guess that's like kind of my rose is that we're getting to spend the last like 2 months to do family time, and we just get to see everybody for the holidays, which is kind of not normal with the rest of it. That I guess like I'm really appreciative of. I got to do Thanksgiving with my family. My brother came out from California, and for Christmas, Doug's mom, dad, sister, brother-in-law, and their little baby are going to come visit us at the new farm. So I guess my rose thorn is kind of a combo that, yeah, it's downtime and I love horse showing and everything, but at the time, like we're really taking advantage of family time and spending it at the new place.
So do you feel like, are you guys feeling settled? Like the new farm feels home now?
Yes, like finally. Like there's still projects and there's projects like every day. And one of our poor guys, like I told him a couple of weeks ago, I was like, Richie, this is like, project number 6,000,000,100. And he's like, well, I hope like not that many. And I'm like, no, dude, like I think there's like infinity projects. And he's like, well, but once we get all this, and I'm like, oh, don't worry. Between Doug and I, we'll find new projects. And I was like, but that's part of why we need, you have a job and everything. We were like joking with him. He's like, so they're not always going to be big projects. I'm like, until we find the next big one. And he's like, you guys kill me. So we're finally doing projects still, but it's finally like, we feel like home and living here and getting settled, and all of our stuff has been really, really nice.
I feel like projects is just part of owning a barn. There's always
that's it. I was like, you're never going to be done. I feel like I said months ago that if I ever hit the 95%, I would be happy, because I feel like the last 5 is just being part of a homeowner or, anybody. It doesn't have to be land or anything. Like if I lived in a house, I'd always want to fix something else, or change the wall color or whatever. So I feel like that's part of the last 5%. And I feel like we're probably at 93%. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah. What about you, Ellie?
So I guess that my thorn would have to be that I may or may not be going through that stage where I've stopped shaving my legs again.
Stop it.
We've reached that time of year.
And I've kind of embraced it at this point. I'm like, I do this every year because it does keep you warmer. So
basically
you, Ellie.
What you're saying is Ellie's changed Movember to like some new saying
no
for her.
Shaved legs.
There, something. I can't say it.
But no, in actuality, my thorn is that I started a new job, which is good, but I'm not working the hours that I'm supposed to be working. So it's supposed to be like kind of like a second shift. So I worked from like 2:30 to 11:30, which for me is perfect because then I have like all morning to do like all horse stuff. And, I can schedule my farrier and my vets for like the mornings, right? Well, right now it's busy season for us. So we're all working like overtime and stuff like that. But I'm working like normal people hours, which is like the first time in like years that I've worked like 9 to 5, and I hate it.
Aww.
Okay, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
There are pros and cons, but yeah, it's hard.
So
pros in the summer, cons in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's still neither. Because I have not had any time like since this is like the 4th week. I have not ridden at all since I started my new job because I can't. Because by the time I'm done, 10 degrees outside, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to ride because I'm cold.
So what's your rose then?
So my rose is
like
that,
you got to have a rose
to
brighten up the day.
It's
that since I am working so late, Matt's having to do all the horse chores.
Ooh.
That's a good one, actually.
It is.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we're a 2-man operation here, so, I don't have anybody, don't pay anybody to clean my stalls or anything. So it's nice to, not have to do that every day. Although recently I have been trying to help and do like half of them in the morning before I start work, but only half.
Until the day you don't feel like doing half.
Yeah, but then it comes back to a thorn, unfortunately, because tax season is going to start, and he's an accountant. So then he's gonna be working till like 11. So then I'm gonna have to start doing them again, which is
just take advantage of it while it's cold.
Yeah.
So Justine, what about you?
My rose is that I've got one more wedding to go to till the end. The year is over, and then I'm done. I'm not going to any more weddings ever again in my life, ever.
That's
I'm
not
cutting
true.
them off because I've gone to more weddings this year, like in a pandemic, than like, gosh, it's been crazy. Like I think about how I went to the Terra Nova horse show. And I went to 2 weddings somehow in between.
In the same weekend.
It was
Yes.
crazy.
It's
So
intense.
I've got one more coming up this month, and then I'm like, I told my husband no more. But we're making like a little weekend getaway out of it, so it'll be like a nice break that I'm looking forward to. Like no family, just the 2 of us. Just you know what I mean? Like that's my rose. So no more weddings. And my thorn, I guess, is I don't know. Life's been pretty good. What's annoying me?
Oh.
How about what your dog did on your couch?
Oh my. Okay, so. Oh my gosh. All right. So Tiki, my greyhound, literally the day we taped the last podcast with Jimmy, poor Ellie was trying to call me, like we talk on the phone, and I just couldn't deal with it because I got off the podcast and my husband was like off doing something, clearly not paying attention to our animals. And I'm like, what is that smell walking through our living room? And it does not smell good. And my greyhound had pooped outside, stepped in her own poop, and tracked it all over my house and was laying on my couch. I sent Ellie the picture, laying on my couch with poop in her foot after she had smeared it all over my couch.
Oh my goodness. That's
Tiki.
disgusting.
This also isn't the first time she's done this. I love her to death, but I think Amanda, I used to tell you this. Tiki and Mikey, my horse, they have the same brain, like the same like domesticated animal, like bred to be an obedient, trained animal. You know what I mean? I love them. They're wonderful pets. But like my little dog would never step in her own poop is all I got to say.
So gross.
So yes, poor Tiki. She's a good girl though, other than stepping in her own poop. But Amanda, what do you got for Rose and Thorn?
Okay, I feel like mine are not as cool as y'all, but whatever. I'm gonna go with my thorn first since I'm the last one to go. So my thorn is that I kind of got into plants recently.
Ooh.
And I went to like one of those new like hip plant bars where you can kind of go in and you can kind of like build a plant. Like you start with a pot and you add dirt and you pick, the types of plants that you want and you put them all together and then they kind of tell you how to take care of them and then they send you on your way. It's a pretty cool little thing.
That's pretty cool.
I know, they're kind of like a newer thing, but they're kind of popping up everywhere, honestly. I guess they're trying to convince our younger generation that we need greenery in our homes and we have to try and keep them alive.
Yep,
Yeah.
house plants. Yep.
I don't know. But I went to one of those, and so I have like a couple different succulents and some cactuses and things like that. Well, I've been putting them outside, a lot, but now it's also gotten cold here where I live in North Carolina, and I'm like scared that I'm killing them. And I've worked so hard to keep them alive like all summer, and I don't want them to die. That's my thorn.
So you should probably keep them inside, but can you put on like a windowsill?
Yeah, that's the problem with my house. I feel like none of my windows are good. Like they don't
light.
like where the sun goes, like they're just not placed in the correct placement for me to. I've been putting them kind of just like in the house, but on the floor, like next to the sliding glass back door. But that only gives them like a couple hours a day before like it's just gone again.
Yeah, but I feel like that's better than freezing them, right?
Yeah.
I have cats, so I don't have plants.
I have cats too, and mine they don't bother them.
You don't have house trolls then. Mine.
Yeah, no, I definitely like all of my animals are like very strictly like they listen to me. Like if my cats are ever like trying to get into anything or do anything that they're not supposed to be doing, all I have to do is be like, tss, 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 and then they stop and run away.
Must be nice.
I know. I have like trained cats. It's so weird, honestly, though. But they're like more well behaved than my dog.
That is not Ellie's life.
No.
My cat did attack my dogs the other day. It was a fat cat, and I laughed so hard the whole time. And she just wailing on my poor Bilbo Pitbull, and he's crying like a little baby.
That's what my dog does, and she's also part pit bull. Like they're not vicious at all. In fact, they just lay there and take it.
Oh my gosh. All right. So what's your rose, Amanda?
Okay. My rose is that this weekend I'm going to a new horse show.
Ooh,
Yay, which one?
We're actually in our neck of the woods. Jessica, I'm going to the Carolina Horse Park this weekend.
Oh, yay, that'll be so fun.
I know. I haven't been in actually quite some time. I think the last time I was on Venue's site was maybe like 7 years ago, like when I lived here previously.
It's changed so much, so it'll be so fun. That's awesome.
I know. I'm like so
It's
excited to
super
see
fun.
it again because the last time I was there, are there real bathrooms yet?
Yes, I think there are. I have not seen them, but I'm pretty sure they actually got them built over this past year.
Oh, that's so nice.
So I really think
because-
there is. And usually there's a bunch of food trucks and everything else.
Ooh,
Um,
numb.
Yeah, and like a coffee shop type place and stuff. They do a great job. So, but I think they were putting in real bathrooms with the whole new like building they built, like Judges Stand and stuff. So, because they built like new rings and stuff. So, no,
I know.
I'm super
I think I've
excited. So that'd be
seen-
fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how much it's changed because even back then it was still like one of the nicer venues in the area. Like from me on the coast, we have
100%.
to kind of like work our way out before we get to anything cool. So I'm so excited, and I'm excited to maybe horse show there one day. So this is gonna be an exciting weekend, kind of like getting to see more of the places that my barn horse shows at, and I've just been like fantasizing. I'm
No,
like
that's super
so
fun.
ready to have a horse, you guys. Like so ready. I've been waiting a very, very long time.
Oh,
You're
well,
getting
soon
there.
enough. Soon
Yeah.
enough.
All right, Amanda. I'm so glad you got to come on the podcast.
Yeah, me too. It's been like so much fun.
Aw.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, because I have been listening to this podcast since like almost its inception. I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
I
That's
think
so
I
exciting.
found it when there were only like, I want to say there were like 14 episodes.
Nice.
And now we're on like what, 90 something? So
yeah,
Yeah.
93. So thank
Like-
you so much.
yeah.
All right, guys, we got a mailbag from Betsy in our Facebook group in the Heels Down Happy Hour podcast lounge, and I wanted to see if you had some advice for her. So Betsy says her mare has been treated for ulcers and she's all clear, but she's still very girthy 6 months later. She's wondering if there's something else going on. She's on grain and she has supplements specifically for ulcers, and she's getting a Mesrapol before going on big trips and alfalfa hay. So it sounds like Betsy's doing everything right. In your experience, Jess, maybe we'll start with you. Like, what do you do with a horse that might still be girthy after going through an ulcer treatment?
So one, I would make sure you actually like obviously got them rescanned, and it sounds like you did. But a lot of times, sometimes it just takes time. And you say that you're feeding supplements that are formulated for it. But we use the Outlast that's in Purina, and it's actually in their grain as well. So that has helped a lot because sometimes the Meprazole or sucralfate or any kind of different ones, there are several different types of ulcer medication, like different drugs. So it's like Advil or Aleve. Some people react differently. So I would make sure it is that, but then also maybe do the girth kind of a little loose or have a fleece girth so that you're just doing it inches at a time. So sometimes they actually think their stomach's going to hurt because you're like wrenching up on it or like a couple holes too much. And when I mean, it might not make a difference to most horses, that horse just might be super sensitive. So if you do it super loose and then one hole at a time, take them for a walk, one hole at a time, just to make sure it is not just the reaction he thinks it's going to hurt, where it definitely doesn't hurt, but he's just going back to almost like PTSD about it.
Right. That was my thing, is it feels like almost like he's anticipating, like a pain response that used to be there, might not still be there, What do you think, Ellie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jess pretty much hit it on the head, but my other thing would be, have a vet out to really listen to their stomach and maybe scope them, and just make sure that ulcers are actually your problem. Because there's a lot of things like horses can get, just like people can get IBS, so it could be something else. I don't want to freak you out, but, always just when in doubt, just call your vet and make an appointment.
Yeah, I agree with that too. As someone who owns a thoroughbred, I did the whole ulcer treatment thing when I got him. And I think a lot of people just treat without scoping, which is fine. But again, if symptoms persist, obviously you need to know what the problem is before you can treat it. And then I would also say there are a lot of products out on the market that say they do things, but maybe aren't necessarily tested that they do what they say. So I would make sure you're checking with your vet for advice on you're using the right maintenance types of products. And then my horse, actually, Mikey, is very sensitive to girthing. He's the type who, if you girth too fast, if you catch that nerve that runs along the lower part of their barrel, like he'll literally fall down in the cross ties. So I had never experienced that before owning this horse, and like a slow girthing progress, like Jess, you described, is really important. And I actually, it changed the way I think about girths, and I bought different types of girths just to make sure he's more comfortable knowing that about him. So it could be unrelated to ulcers, and it could just be literally, discomfort during the girthing process that you could be dealing with.
Could also be saddle fit too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's another thing that people don't often associate with girthiness, but as that girth tightens, you're pushing on that back. So if it's hitting a point that is a little uncomfortable, that's another thing to look into.
So keep us posted, Betsy. Let us know how your mare's doing. And if you have a question for us, you can always send us an email and we'll answer it on air. Our email is hello@heelsdownmedia.com. And if you want to hear more from us, you should subscribe to the Heels Down Spark. You can do that by going to bit.ly/SparkByHD. And you should join our Facebook group if you haven't already. That's the Heels Down Happy Hour Podcast Lounge. We want to say thank you to all of our partners this week: EcoGold, Candles for Burned Out Equestrians, Green Flower Botanicals, and Redding Goat. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Cheers.
Cheers.